If your feet go cold before anyone else is in the room, or your legs feel heavy by 6 in the evening, you've probably already tried the obvious fixes. Walk a little more, prop your feet up, maybe compression socks in the drawer. Here's something you probably haven't tried. There's a spice sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now that researchers have actually been studying for its direct effect on blood vessels, not just the symptoms you feel. It's cloves. And I want to be upfront about something before we go any further. There's a version of this story floating around online right now claiming cloves will measurably warm your feet by day 3 and fix your circulation by day 7, complete with made-up journal names and numbers that don't exist anywhere in actual research. That version is fiction dressed up as science. This is the real one. It's less flashy, and it's more useful because it's actually true. The compound doing the real work in cloves is called Eugenol. It makes up somewhere between 85 and 95% of clove oil, and it's the same compound that gives cloves that sharp, warm, faintly numbing smell. Dentists have used it for over a century because of its effect on nerve tissue. But eugenol's relevance doesn't stop in the dentist chair. For the past couple of decades, researchers have been mapping out exactly what it does to blood vessels, and the mechanisms they've found are legitimately interesting, with no exaggeration required. The mechanism. Here's what the actual lab and animal research shows. Eugenol relaxes the smooth muscle lining of blood vessel walls by blocking calcium channels, the tiny gateways that let calcium into muscle cells and trigger them to contract. Block those channels, and the vessel wall relaxes, the space inside widens, and blood moves through with less resistance. If that sounds familiar, it should. It's the same basic principle behind a well-known class of prescription blood pressure medications called calcium channel blockers, the kind a lot of people in their 60s and 70s already recognize from their own medicine cabinet. In animal studies, researchers measured this directly. Eugenol produced immediate, dose-dependent drops in both blood pressure and heart rate, and when they traced the cause, the drop came from active relaxation of the vessels themselves, which is exactly the mechanism you'd want if circulation, not just blood pressure on paper, is the actual question. There's also a specific receptor called TRPV4, found on the cells lining blood vessel walls, that eugenol appears to activate, triggering dilation in the arteries supplying certain organ systems, another distinct route to the same relaxed, open vessel outcome. Separately, eugenol has also been shown to activate the enzyme responsible for producing nitric oxide in the cells lining blood vessels, nitric oxide being the same molecule your body naturally uses to signal vessels to relax and open, and the same targets several other heart-healthy compounds, from beetroot to dark chocolate, are studied for. A third line of research has measured ACE-inhibitory activity in clove extracts, meaning they may interfere with the same enzyme that an entirely different class of blood pressure drugs is built to block. 3 or 4 separate mechanisms, found by different research teams working independently of each other, all pointing the same direction: more relaxed, more open blood vessels. The honest caveat: why this matters? Now here's the part that separates an honest video from the kind making big promises. Almost all of this research, the calcium channel work, the nitric oxide activation, the blood pressure drops, comes from animal studies and lab tissue samples, not large human trials. Direct, well-designed human studies on cloves specifically and leg circulation are still genuinely limited, and the few human studies that do exist on related markers tend to be small, short, and not specific to people over 65. That doesn't make the science fake. The mechanisms are published and reproducible across multiple independent labs, which is actually a meaningful signal in research. When separate teams working on separate questions keep landing on the same vessel-relaxing effect, that's not nothing. It means we're at promising, biologically plausible mechanism, not proven treatment with measured results in people your age in 7 days. Anyone telling you a specific number, a percentage improvement, a day-by-day countdown of symptoms disappearing on schedule, is quoting a number that doesn't exist in the actual literature, no matter how official the journal name sounds. That's exactly the gap where most health misinformation lives, and now you know how to spot it the next time you see it. If you'd rather get the real, sourced version of these health trends instead of the version built to go viral on exaggeration, that's the entire point of this channel. Tap follow now, because next up is a related compound with much stronger human evidence behind it, and you'll want to see how it compares to this one. The safety detail almost nobody mentions. Here's the detail that gets skipped in almost every version of this video, and it matters more than the circulation angle. Separately from its effect on vessel walls, Eugenol has also been shown in lab studies using actual human platelets, the cell fragments responsible for clotting, to reduce how readily those platelets clump together. Researchers found it interfered with specific signaling pathways involved in platelet activation. That's a genuinely interesting finding on its own, but it also means cloves, and especially concentrated clove oil or extract supplements, aren't automatically risk-free to add on top of everything else you're taking, particularly if you're already on a blood thinner, on aspirin therapy, or you bruise and bleed more easily than you used to. Combining something that affects platelet behavior with a medication that already does the same thing is exactly the kind of interaction worth flagging to your doctor or pharmacist before you start, not after something goes wrong. Practical takeaway. So what does this actually mean for your kitchen? There's a real difference between using whole or ground cloves the way people have for centuries, in tea, in cooking, in small culinary amounts, and taking concentrated clove oil or high-dose extract supplements sold specifically as circulation aids. The dietary amounts most people would reasonably use in food, a few whole cloves in tea or a pinch of ground clove in cooking, are generally considered safe for most adults and line up with how cloves have been used traditionally for a very long time, across South Asian, Middle Eastern, and other cuisines, often specifically for their warming and circulatory associations, long before modern chemistry could explain why. Concentrated extracts and oils are a different category, with higher and more variable eugenol concentrations and a different risk profile, especially for older adults already managing multiple medications. If you're over 65 and curious, the lowest risk starting point is simple: use whole or ground cloves in food the way you might already enjoy them, skip the supplement bottle promising fast results, and mention it to your doctor or pharmacist at your next visit, especially if blood thinners are part of your routine. So is there something real here? Genuinely yes. The mechanisms are documented, published, and biologically sound, and eugenol is a legitimate area of ongoing cardiovascular research. Is it a proven fix for leg circulation in people over 65, backed by large human trials, ready to replace anything your doctor has prescribed? Not yet. And that honest answer is actually more reassuring than a fake one, because it means you can try it without being sold a miracle you'll be disappointed by in a week. If this gave you a clearer, more accurate picture than the version you've probably already seen, send it to someone who's been forwarded one of those countdown to results videos recently. They'll likely thank you for the reality check. And if you want more of exactly this, the science-checked version of the health trends everyone's talking about, follow now, because that's what this channel is built to do.